easy credit played out over and over. Introduction. In June 2007, at a private New York dinner between U.S. regulators and the nation's top bankers, Citigroup CEO Charles Prince turned to plead with Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson. "Isn't there something you can do to order us not to take all of these risks?" Prince made a similar point 2 weeks later while talking to the Financial Times about the growing subprime mortgage crisis. "When the music stops, things will be complicated, but as long as the music is playing, you've got to get up and dance." A few months after that, he resigned. Citi had just announced it would have to write down the value of its subprime holdings by as much as $11 billion. At the time of the dinner, the subprime mortgage meltdown had been unfolding for 6 months. Yet neither the Wall Street bankers nor the Washington policymakers in attendance that night recognized its magnitude. Eventually, it would stand out as the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression. Yet it was only the latest in a series of crises that have forced policymakers and industry executives to wrestle over the government's proper role in financial markets. Prince's question raised what has become a key issue for Americans and their economy: can and should government save bankers from themselves before calamity strikes? This wasn't always a serious question. Before the 1929 crash, Americans didn't view the President of the United States or the Chairman of the Federal Reserve Board as the stewards of the financial markets. Bankers didn't expect taxpayers to bail them out, and depositors, by and large, didn't expect Uncle Sam to guarantee their money. That has changed. Nearly a century after the 1929 crash, Prince's plea shows that even those who usually oppose government regulation nonetheless expect and even want stewardship. Some have called the crash and subsequent Great Depression the defining moment that caused this shift in worldview and persuaded both bankers and the public to accept, indeed embrace, a government role in regulating financial services. Defining that role has been a work in progress ever since. How can government create and police a level playing field that fosters efficiency and competition, but also prevents reckless behavior that seems profitable at first, but then causes massive losses, puts taxpayers at risk, and imperils the nation's financial and political well-being? The need that Prince captured in his plea started with a social contract forged in the early 1930s, when Congress and the White House demanded stricter regulation of banks in exchange for giving them federal deposit insurance, a taxpayer-backed safety net in times of crisis. President Herbert Hoover pushed for deposit insurance as the only way to restore confidence during that dark time. His successor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, opposed it on the ground that it would encourage sloppiness among bank managers and moral hazard among depositors, who would become indifferent to whether the banks holding their money were well run. Big banks sided with FDR. But as the Depression worsened amid a wave of bank failures, he eventually agreed to accept deposit insurance, albeit only if strong oversight to protect taxpayers was part of the package. Deposit insurance would protect individuals, but that was never an end in itself. It was a stepping stone to the larger goal of preserving the stability of the financial and political system. In one important sense, federal deposit insurance worked. Bank panics and failures essentially stopped as soon as Congress put the insurance system in place, and that relative financial calm lasted nearly 50 years. Deposit insurance, coupled with the creation of the Securities and Exchange Commission and other oversight agencies during the 1930s, produced a new era in commercial and investment banking. Since the 1970s, however, industry executives and policymakers have more and more insistently opposed the regulation of financial services, maintaining that government rules and oversight impede innovation and hobble consumer